Hey, what's up, y'all? It's a pleasure to be with you again. I hope your day's going well. I hope that you're shining even when there's dark times. Now, the question of the day is, do you need analog gear to succeed? I know, it sounds crazy, but the answer is actually very quick. No. So there you go. That's the end of the video. It's a pleasure spending this time with you. And we'll see you later. Okay, hold on. I'm just playing. See, I wanted to make this video to kind of interject myself into the wide discussion that is analog versus digital. And it's a discussion that's been going on since the dawn of digital and will most likely continue to go on for a very long extended period of time, maybe to the end of time. I have no idea. But I wanted to do this a little bit different. I want to ask 3 questions that one of them I see asked a lot, but the other 2, I don't see them getting asked as much, and I wanted to weigh in my opinion, but also kind of weigh in some experiences and what I've heard other people tell me who are different engineers in different fields and so on and so forth. So with that being said, these are the 3 questions. And I am reading from something which is directly right here. So if you see me look over here, it's because I'm actually looking over here. We may get on the computer a little bit later, just look at some research and some studies, but we shall see. First one, do analog and digital sound the same? It's the first question I'm gonna get into in a second. The second question, do songs made with analog gear create deeper emotional connections and memories? Okay. Third question, will analog ever fully be obsolete from the music production process? Those are 3 questions I want to cover. Hopefully we do it kind of quick. I don't know. Let's jump into it. First one. Hey y'all, quick intermission real quick. This video is actually sponsored by, you guessed it, Contrast for Creatives, which is my own company. Now, Contrast for Creatives is a audio mixing company. So if you're an artist, if you're a videographer, if you're a worship pastor or an audio director at a church and you are looking to get your audio mixed and to the next level, or if you're just looking to get your signature sound, for every new client we do a free mix. So if you just want to get a mix and just see what it would sound like, you can go to the website, which is linked in the description, and just submit your mix. It's free. You just put your email in so we can contact you. As soon as you submit your mix, you get an actual mixing representative who will reach out to you, and that will be the person that contacts you. It'll probably be me, but but it's completely free for the first mix. So if you want to send some tracks over, there's no barrier, no credit card, no anything. Link in the description. All right, let's get back to it. Do analog and digital sound the same? I believe the quick answer is no. They definitely sound different, and it's really not up for debate. I don't think. There's just 2 different processes that are happening. For example, whenever I'm speaking right now, all sound really is a disturbance in the atmosphere. So it's mechanical energy, right? Whenever you speak into a microphone, the microphone is taking that mechanical energy, converting it into an electrical signal, which is then getting sent all the way through a lot of wires, depending on if you're analog or digital, straight to an interface. And then you're going from A to D, which is analog to digital. And then digital is happening in the computer, it gets converted out again, so you can hear it through the speakers, so on and so forth. Now, the length at which that electrical signal actually travels is very different from digital to analog. And by the way, we're going to talk about recording and mixing and mastering too. Mastering is kind of in its own little world when it comes to digital and analog talks. So when recording, let's say you're recording in a big studio, or let's just say you're recording maybe in a home studio, but you have a lot of analog gear. Like I said, you're speaking, and that's the mechanical energy gets converted into electrical signal by your microphone, which it's then going to go through some cable. Maybe it's going to hit a tie line, which is going to go through some more cable. It's going to end up on a patch bay, go through some more cable. Maybe you patch it into a mic pre, an external one. It's going to hit some more cable. Then maybe you patch it into a EQ, and then a compressor. Then you go to tape, and then you come back out to the console or anything like that. The amount of time that's happening for that electrical signal to pass, which it's not a lot of time, but it's a lot of distance that's being covered by that signal, and it's going through a lot of different components. So it's getting colored, and it's going through step up transformers, step down transistors, things like that. And it's coloring the sound, it's making it different, and it's traveling a lot further than this microphone right now into an interface through like a 15-foot XLR cable. there's a difference in distance traveled already. So that electrical signal has a lot more time and it's going through a lot more components. Therefore, they end up sounding just a little bit different. Now, can you emulate that sound in the box? I think you can get close, but when it comes to recording, I do think it's different because you are going to lose higher frequencies the more distance that you travel as an electrical signal. And that's why you'll see people slowly introduce it back in analog chains. So let's reframe the question. Do analog and digital sound the same? Well, what we mean by analog is recording with a huge long path versus recording from microphone, one XLR into an interface, right? We can call that digital. Yes. Now, the next thing, in the box, do they sound the same? This is where I believe we're maybe starting to get closer. I think that they do have a different sound, but I think now plugins are getting to a point where you can get close and you can emulate something to sound analog, or you can emulate the sound that analog is giving, that coloration, that saturation. You can emulate that in the box now. I think you can. I think you can get close. Now, comparing gear for gear, like taking an LA2A and then comparing it to a LA2A plugin, those comparisons I think are where you can still kind of tell the difference. But if you're just trying to say, hey, this was mixed fully analog, this was mixed fully in the box, not making a direct comparison to an actual piece of hardware, I think that those two comparisons, you can get a lot closer to where you can probably fool some people within the box one, just because you can over make it sound analog, and then this one will sound like, oh, that's got to be digital. This one is so much warmer and so much this and so much that. And so because of that, I think that it's very close in the box. Now, mastering, I'll be the first to admit, I definitely do not know a lot about mastering. I mix, try to master digitally, but not a mastering engineer by any means. Mastering, from what I've seen, a lot of it is still done on hardware, just because it's like minimal, small, minor gains that they're making over and over and over again to go ahead and get to what they're seeing. So the biggest mastering engineers that I see, I notice a lot of them still use analog, and I'm gonna be honest, I'll be the first to say, can't really speak too crazy on that matter. But to recap, once again, do analog and digital sound the same? From a tracking standpoint, no. There's very different things happening from a tracking standpoint. From a mixing standpoint, they're close. The sound is different, but you can emulate it pretty close. I would say it's like 95%, 90 to 95%. Sometimes I think 98%. Sometimes you can get close. There's a lot of plugins out there. There's a lot of things that you can do now in order to emulate it. Mastering, I'm not a mastering engineer, but a lot of it's done analog. I think that for that reason, I think you can get louder with analog, but I could be mistaken. I don't know. That's what I've seen from watching other mastering engineers. So that's my stance on that question. Is it backed by scientific evidence? Kind of. No, not really. But from what I have seen and what I have heard, that's kind of how I would weigh in on that topic. Okay, the next question. Do songs made with analog gear create a deeper emotional connection and make more memories? Now, this question hits at home because I've always loved music, right? It was always a way to escape, as I'm sure it is for you as well. It was always a way to just escape and just disappear into the song. And just at one point in my life, I always had to have headphones. I always had to have music. It was like drug addicts to drugs. Can't go to the movies without getting high. I can't go on a walk, can't go to the movies without having music. I gotta have music. Can't get in the car without music. And so there was a point where music was that stable for me. And so because I was always listening to it, that means that I was always creating this emotional relationship with the songs that I would listen, because as I was going through life and doing different things, there'd be a song playing in the background. So there was a soundtrack to my life. No Kid Cudi. So that's why we gotta ask this question. Does a mix done fully analog versus one that was done digitally, let's say tracked digitally, and like I said, digitally is just going like for the sake of this conversation, we're going to consider digital tracking, microphone, XLR cable interface. Okay. We'll just consider that digital tracking. And then obviously digital mixing completely in the box. Does something that was tracked digitally and mixed digitally create less or more of an emotional connection with you? This is where it starts to get great. I tried to do some research and to find out what studies would suggest, and I kind of found that higher fidelity songs tend to be more soothing. Sometimes, like, studies have shown that. But when you talk about actually creating a memory and actually creating an emotional connection with something, I believe it has a lot more to do with saliency and neuroplasticity than it actually has to do with the songs itself. So let's just paint a picture for a second. You're maybe 16 years old or something like that. You sneak out. All right, look, just for the sake of this comparison, just hear me out. I know it's crazy, but just hear me out. It may or may not be based on a true story. It's probably not. All right, 16 years old. Sneak out the house, going to a house party. All right. Maybe under the influence, maybe not. In the back seat, somebody's driving, right? This kind of, you're already on this different type of playing field because you know you're doing something that you maybe shouldn't be doing. All right. But you're trying to let go. So somebody got the aux. They put on a song. All right. Song start playing. Windows maybe come down just a little bit. Maybe people are doing different sort of things around you. And you start to hear the song's going, adrenaline's kind of going. Y'all are riding, going fast, windows down, air in your face. Song's booming. That song, I feel like in that situation, has a way higher possibility to create that emotional relationship with you than if you were just listening to it, maybe just in passing around while you were cleaning. But it's because of the saliency of that actual event. It's like what you were doing while that song was playing, I think has a lot more to do with it than the actual mix itself. Now, of course, a mix still has to be good and translate in order for it to have the possibility to create that connection. But there's been songs where we've been listening to it. They're definitely like a soundtrack. Like we play them and I'm like, whoa, this takes me back. And the mixes are terrible on them, like terrible. They recorded just straight on the phone. So I don't even think it has anything to do with the mix. I think it has more to do with what's actually going on. Like what are you actually doing while that song is playing? And so to answer this question, from my opinion, does analog or digital create a deeper emotional connection? I don't think so. I don't think the mix actually matters when it comes to creating it. But I will tell you, something that's tracked digitally versus analog, you do have to process it a lot more generally, just depending on how you record it and what sound you're going for. So I would say that because of that, you may have the possibility to take some of the performance out of the song. I think that's a possibility. So maybe looking at it from that, if you track something analog versus track it digitally, like I said, remember what we consider in digital, track something analog versus tracking it digital, you may have to process it more in the mix. So possibly you lose something. But then again, like I said, there's been songs that the mix is absolutely terrible, but we put them on and it's still like, man, this brings back memories. So I don't know. I don't think it is. I'd love to know what you think about this. I'd love to know how you weigh in. And I'd also love to know your stories too, because I know y'all got some crazy stories out there about how songs relate and different things like that. Anyways, I'm gonna move on. This is get my brain jumping. The final question: will analog ever be fully obsolete from the music production process? Like, will consoles, anything analog gear, will all of this one day just not be a factor anymore? Like, will it just be gone? That digital is so good that nobody uses it anymore. Like it's not even a question. It's something in the past. Like right now, nobody's really recording on wax competitively. Will analog ever be like that? Nobody is ever recording on analog competitively. Honestly, I don't think so. Because if you look at the state of where analog is going right now, people like SSL, they just came out with that new console, which was actually, what was it called? The Odyssey. They just came out with that Odyssey, which is an analog console, but you can control the circuits digitally, so you can get things like recalling, which is one of the biggest upsides of working digitally. Is like, oh, we don't have to go back and reset all the gear. We can just recall it and it just pops up. Well, SSL came out with something that now does the same thing. So because of that and the tendency of where these companies are starting to go, because you got to remember at the end of the day, the companies that are making analog gear, it is a business at the end of the day. And so they will do everything possible to make sure that that business continues to go. And so if that means creating analog circuits that are controlled digitally, that's most likely what they're going to end up doing. And I think that there's just some type of experience that comes with touching physical gear that you can't really get on a computer, right? Like, don't get me wrong, I love being in the box and messing with software, but there's something about seeing the meter on a piece of analog gear move, and there's something about seeing them jump and touching the faders and touching the knobs, and it clicks and it does all these different things. There's something about that that is just too enjoyable to a lot of people for it to just become obsolete. So I don't know. I don't think. But what I am interested in is how good will emulations actually get, like a microphone emulation. I do think that if microphone emulations got good enough, that maybe some of the vintage stuff could become obsolete. Like if this mic right now, if I could just model a vintage U69 or something like that, and it sounded exactly like it, like I'm talking exactly like it, like we could do a null test and there'd be nothing, it sounded exactly like it, I do think that the hype behind maybe some of the vintage stuff would start to go down. So like, in that way, I could see vintage stuff being obsolete, but you still have to have the microphone until we have, I guess, Neuralink in our head and we can telepathically transmit the vocals in or something. I don't know. That'd be insane. But I think it'll stick around, at least for a while. Like I said, it's a business and it's just too enjoyable. People just like to mess with it. So with that being said, we've answered 3 questions. Bit of a recap. Do analog and digital sound the same? Probably not. From a tracking standpoint, don't believe so. From a mixing standpoint, they are close. From a mastering standpoint, I'm not a mastering engineer, but I think they're a little farther from close. Okay, second question. Do songs made with analog gear create a deeper emotional connection and make more memories? Then we chalked it up to probably not. There's been bad mixes that when we hear them, we're still like, oh shoot, this brings back memories. So probably not. I don't think the mix actually has anything to do with it. I think it's more of what you're doing at that time and possibly some social influence as well. Like who's listening to it with you and what's your relationship with that person? Third question, will analog gear ever become fully obsolete? Probably not. Like I said, business is business. They are a business at the end of the day. And a lot of people just enjoy touching knobs and moving faders and different things like that. So most likely not. But like I said, these are just opinions. I could be so completely wrong. And I would love to know what y'all think in the comments. Or you can send an email too. Like we respond to those all day. I hope you enjoyed the video. It's a little bit different. It's more of a discussion type of video. But if you enjoy these, let me know. Leave a like, subscribe, do all those things. You don't have to do any of those. We could just exist. That's cool too. All right.